covering the High Plains with news, weather, and information. From TV23 Studios in Sublette, this is High Plains Today.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this special edition of High Plains Today. Joining me today is Mr. Christopher Miller. He is the president of Rocking M Media. And we're going to be talking about a new thing. Well, it's not really new, but it is kind of new, called crowdfunding. He's going to give us the ins and outs because when it comes to this stuff, I'm just dumb as a post. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, Chris. Nice
Good
to be here. Good to see you.
You know, crowdfunding. Give me a quick 101 on what is crowdfunding.
A lot of people will think of a Kickstarter campaign, Indiegogo, Rocket Hub. That's been where crowdfunding first got its chops, where it started. Those would be, you would be funding a campaign, maybe someone's raising money to put a movie, to produce a movie. They're doing it to pre-sale a board game or a lot of technology things right now. There's some things like a thermalized coffee cup that changes temperatures, those type of things that are, you know, these new high-tech gadgets. Basically what you're doing is you're paying for a pre-order. You go online, you say, hey, I like that gadget, I'll order it knowing that it's maybe a year or so out, but I'm going to get it maybe for half the price when it hits retail, those type of things. But it's to help entrepreneurs build their dreams.
Okay, so when you invest in something on Kickstarter, say that's thermal mug, then what you're getting back is you aren't getting any money back or anything like that. You're actually getting the mug once it's produced.
That's what the Kickstarter and the Rocket Hubs and stuff like that.
Okay, so those are, what do we call those? Kind of a rewards-based or whatever.
You're getting something back at rewards.
Crowdfunding.
You're not owning anything within that company. You're not getting a return on your money. You're getting product or services.
Okay. So that's basically what Kickstarter, but don't they have some other ones out there? Because you always hear on the news and stuff of crowdfunding that is charity-based.
Yes, yes.
I mean, that seems to be a big deal now.
That's another one, but again, it's a rewards because you're feeling good about donating to someone's charity. So that's the reward side of it. But yeah, the charities are big on the crowdfunding. Family, their house burns and they need to rebuild, or someone's medical bills, everyone chips in. So it's good for that because there's a lot of ways people wouldn't know that someone needed help until someone put a campaign up for somebody.
Okay. So when we talk about these rewards-based ones, I mean, are there gazillions of dollars or millions of dollars being raised, or just in the tens of thousands, or
it's probably,
yes to both?
I maybe Google it, but I would say it's probably in the billions across the country.
Okay.
I mean, across the world, the internet, yeah.
Worldwide.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Okay,
yeah.
And Kickstarter, yeah, now, you know, everybody's heard of Kickstarter, and I really wasn't aware of how it worked until I started reading up on it, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, you give them money, and then you get something back, but you're not really investing in the company. But that's where you are involved in some stuff, and this is kind of a new deal, right?
Yes.
I mean, it hadn't been around that many years, where you can be, equity-based or debt-based, or even in the real estate end of things. I mean, there's a lot of more options out there now.
That's exactly right. In 2012, Congress passed what was called the Jobs Act. And the Jobs Act, one of the parts of it, they requested or told the Security Exchange Commission to rewrite some rules that had to do with investors being able to invest in companies, either in using debt or loans to a company, or even buying equity. The old rules were you couldn't do that on the internet. They said because of Kickstarter and Rocket Hub and some of these others that they thought, you know, maybe we should. So that was one of the good things that came out of the 2012 Jobs Act. Well, it took the SEC 3 or 4 years to get these rules written. Well, just last year, where enough of the rules were in place that some of these other broker dealers, licensed security and exchange broker dealers that handle stocks and bonds, they figured out that by reading the rules and working through this, they were able to start their own sites to do equity or debt-based crowdfunding sites. So it's helping entrepreneurs grow a business or even start a business, but instead of just doing the rewards way where you're getting a product, investors can actually own a piece of a new business, or they can loan money to a real estate transaction.
So now you can actually put money in to get money back.
You're an
whether
investor.
it be an equity or capital or whatever, that you can actually get back.
In our part of the country, It might be a group of individual investors would get behind a project in their community. Somebody wanted to open a new filling station or a bowling alley. They would maybe get together to back the entrepreneur to do it, but it was just kind of a club deal. It was the guys knew each other or called somebody on the phone. There wasn't any way for other people other than that small group of people to learn about it. And so
now it goes worldwide.
Now it can go. Now you're legally, you can go. We can put. If I'm the guy that wants to start the bowling alley or filling station, I can put my project up online on one of these sites, and then people from around the area, if they're paying attention and they heard about the site, they can go there and say, "Oh, well, I know that's Chris's son. I'll invest in his new bowling alley or filling station," type of thing. And for that, I might own 10% of his business. Or maybe it's a real estate transaction where you're going to buy a home and you need the financing to do the remodeling and flip it, and you need $100,000 to do that. You can say, okay, here's the home I'm going to buy. Here's the money I need. And you say, I'm going to need that money for 18 months, and I'll pay 8% or 6% interest, whatever fits your business model, and you can put it up on your plan, your campaign.
All right.
So then people can actually go and invest in that.
All right, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about how this works and how you can get money invested and get it back and those types of things. So stick around here. I'm over here. We'll be right back after this.
You're watching High Plains Today on TV23 with host Chris Jewell. TV23's internet service and 4G live streaming provided by United Wireless. Coverage you deserve. Service you expect. United Wireless.
And welcome back. We're talking with Mr. Christopher Miller. He is the president of Rockingham Media. We're talking about crowdfunding. And you guys are involved in, you have a site, and you have one of these crowdfunding sites set up, and it's called ruralgrowth.com. Okay, my big question is now, and a lot of this, the majority of this stuff is done on the internet now. I mean, it's just opened up a whole new deal for, the guy who's not close to or being on Wall Street or anything like that. I mean, this opens up a whole new market. But if I go to ruralgrowth.com and I look at something that you guys are doing, how do I get involved in that? I mean, how do I register or get approved? I'm sure there's a process.
There is a process, and that's what's nice about when they did these rules, when the SEC did it, there are specific things that anybody who is either going to be an investor or an entrepreneur that's putting a project up, there's certain things that they're required to do that's all part of the process. So when you visit ruralgrowth.com, there's a couple different buttons there, but the two ones we're talking about is one says raise capital and the other one says invest. So if you're an investor, you click on the investment one, and then you'll go through and fill out your information. It's going to do a check on you, and it's what is kind of safe and scary at the same time is the amount of information that they will put, that as you're going through this process, instantaneously it'll ask you questions based on the history that they've been able to pull, because the broker dealers that are running these systems have these computers programs or algorithms set up to be able to prove that you're either who you say you are and you're not a bad actor.
So when you get vetted by the site, and I'm sure it doesn't matter if you go to ruralgrowth.com or 99 or any of these, you're going to have to go through this process.
Yes, if you're an investor, and you want to do it up front, because that way they know going through the process, if they're going to open these deals up, because there's personal information and there's financial information. When an entrepreneur puts his information out there, you want to know that only good people are seeing that.
Okay.
So the investors are vetted, which is good for the entrepreneurs. And the reverse is true when you go to the raise capital button and you click on it and you're the entrepreneur putting your deal up there, you go through a very similar process.
Okay, I was going to ask you that. All right, so if I'm an investor or if I'm an entrepreneur, either way, when I get on that site and I'm clicking, now if I'm an investor, say, and I'm going through that and I go, oh, that looks interesting, and I pull it up, and I'm sure there's going to be The entrepreneur has put up a business plan, et cetera, everything that I need to know about the project. Now, are there minimums set, or how do you, I mean, what kind of funds are they looking for? Anything from this much to this much, or what?
They try to standardize, not standardize, but if it's a $100,000 project, they might break it into 10 pieces. So a $10,000 deal for each do that investors. Then there's deals that they'll do them like for $1,000, you can get a piece of something.
Okay.
So it kind of ranges. Depends on what the actual project is. Whether it's just a real estate transaction where the guy needs $50,000 to flip the house, well, they'll do smaller pieces.
Sure.
But it's got to be worth it to the investor.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said. All right, so what if I'm an entrepreneur? Let's go to the other side of this. I'm an entrepreneur, and I put up a project, say, I want to flip. I bought this old house, and we're going to flip it, and I need $100,000. Mm-hmm. And I don't get my $100,000 raised. Then what do you do?
Nothing happens.
Oh, okay.
If you'll see a clock, it looks like a clock on at least on our site, and it kind of fills up as the funding, as people make commitments. So you committed to invest in a deal, I did, but where they were still only got 90%. We, as an investor, we're saying if we click on it and say we want a piece of that, if it gets fully funded, the company, the broker dealer then reaches in and pulls the money out, and then we get whatever we're getting, whether it be a piece of equity or a debt instrument.
So then when it gets to the 100,000, then ding, ding, ding,
everything
stuff's going up.
automatically goes.
All right.
But if it doesn't, then it doesn't fund, no fees are charged, nothing happens. Other than the entrepreneur can then take what he learned, because a lot of times they'll be back and forth. You can email or call the entrepreneur if you're the investor, and you can visit about what he's got going. It's not, there's a lot of two-way from that standpoint. You can send an email saying, hey, I got a question in your financials about this. So you send the email. So the entrepreneur then you get a little bit of a conversation going.
Sure.
So then you say, okay, I'm going to put my deal back up, but we're making these changes. And so you put it back up. It can get relisted. It can get put back up again.
Okay, so
we tweak it and do it again.
And Brian's telling me we got about a minute left in this segment. So if I were, I would be free to go in and say I've got everything and nobody comments on anything, but I was going to only offer, say, 6%. Then I could go back in and offer 7 or 8% return or whatever, and put it back in, right?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
And wait for it to go ding, ding, ding.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Okay, that's pretty slick. And you are vetted as an investor or an entrepreneur, right?
Yes, and then the entrepreneur,
Both ways.
Both have people get vetted. They both have to go through that process to make sure they say who they say they are, and they don't have a criminal background. They don't have a bunch of, they're not a deadbeat from, their credit, all those type of stuff. It's amazing what all gets checked.
That'd be an important stuff right there.
It's very important.
Yeah, I'll bet. All right. Okay, stick around. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the pros and cons of this program, because I'm sure they're there. So stick around. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. We're talking with Christopher Miller. He is the president of Rocking M Media. We're talking about crowdfunding. It's kind of a new thing, and they've got a site called ruralgrowth.com where you can do this. Now, this is an example. All right, so we've talked about, what crowdfunding is. We've talked about, okay, how do you get in investing? How do you become an investor or an entrepreneur? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk about an example of crowdfunding, say on Rural Growth.
Okay. One of the things that we see a potential there in our part of the country where we have our radio stations out here is that maybe restaurant franchises. So if you were looking at a Montezuma or a Sublette would like to open a McDonald's or Burger King, you get the entrepreneur that wants to do that.
Now, that's just as an example.
That's an example.
So there's not a McDonald's or Burger King coming to Sublette.
So, but you could, if you're the entrepreneur and you want to do it, you could put your project up there and you could raise. And the fun thing is that people will now hear, using our radio signals, they'll hear about your deals out there. So that's where Rural Growth doesn't just organically, people don't know about it. That's why we're here visiting with you guys. So we got to get the word out there so people can start seeing the deals up there. But once those deals get up there, they can raise their money to start their restaurant franchise or whatever they want in their town. That's our job, is to help get the message out.
And pretty much, a project or a campaign could pretty much be anything you can think of, right? I mean, if you think of a way that you can get it, I mean, that you need funding for something, you could do it.
Yes.
That's the cool thing about this.
Yep.
And it's not going to be just, and that's the other thing that really is amazing, because of being internet based, it's not just going to stay in Southwest Kansas.
No.
I mean, this is a worldwide deal.
That's correct. That's correct. You might have an investor that invests, it's in Denver, or it could be in San Francisco.
Or it could be in
New Delhi.
London or New Delhi or anywhere. Okay. And if you are looking at somebody that's out of state or overseas, international investors or whatever, now they're going to still go through all the same processes that everybody else does, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, I think more than I think about how you ask the question, I'm not sure they as an investor, they would, unless they were a U.S. citizen, I don't know if they'd get through the vetting process.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is really, really tight then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
you weren't kidding around on that part, were you?
No, it's. But if we talk to an entrepreneur, we want them to feel comfortable putting their information out there, because it is confidential. You can't go up, if you go to Rural Growth right now, without becoming an investor, you can see deals, but you can't view them. In other words, you can't look at the details.
Oh, okay. All right.
You can see what's up there because we want people to see that. But there's also, you're not going to be able to go do an investment without becoming an investor and getting vetted.
Okay, so say that I got involved in the McDonald's going to be here in Sublette, right over here on the intersection. How do I track that? I mean, how do I follow along? Yeah, the funding and how it's doing.
You go the site. It shows you as it gets funded. It'll go 10%, 15%, whatever. There's you get emails, get updates.
Okay, all right. Mm-hmm. What about once it is funded and the project, the campaign is done, and the project started? Then how do I track after that?
Then it becomes whatever. If you become a member of that LLC, whatever that operating agreement in that LLC says that they're required to do, that's what you'll get.
Okay.
Quarterly updates or whatever.
So that's where the crowdfunding then, once it becomes funded and done, you guys, I mean, it just kind of goes away. You're DUN done with it.
If we get it funded, that's our job.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, and then now, do you guys get a percentage of? I mean, you got to make a profit on this too.
Right.
I mean, that's a simple deal.
We have a partner with a broker dealer they're doing all the back office side of it. We're doing the front office and the marketing and helping pull the deals in. So we actually have an arrangement to them to work our fees out between them and us. So,
okay.
But yeah, you're going to be charged, if you're an entrepreneur, you need to figure, depending on the size of the deal, the fees to raise money using crowdfunding, industry kind of standards is between maybe 8 to 10%.
It's not really terrible, is it?
Not if you just build it. You build it. It's a cost of business because it got you, instead of you going out and doing a whole bunch of road shows, you got your deal up there, and then you were able to.
That's right. You aren't having to go out and knock on a ton of doors and make a ton of phone calls. This is doing the legwork for you.
And plus, it gives you street cred because in order for you to get on a rural growth platform, you have gotten vetted, and because we're not going to put deals up there that we think are bad deals, because if we're not going to use our bandwidth and waste time putting something up that we don't believe in that can't get funded.
Yeah, it's going to help that the entrepreneur's reputation.
Right.
Okay. All right. This is all extremely interesting. You know I'm going to be on ruralgrowth.com looking at deals going, what do we got here? Okay. Now, I'm sure, though, in all of this, it's just like anything else in investing. There's pros and there's cons to this. Let's start with the cons.
The cons, if it's said once, it's said 1,000 times on the site. Don't invest anything that you're not willing to lose. I'm paraphrasing, but anything that you invest, it can't be something that you can't not worry about. The McDonald's doesn't make it, or the.
Well, I was going to say, I never thought about that, because you get to a point where, okay, you guys have done your part and got it funded, and they're off doing their deal, but there's nothing that guarantees you that it's going to make it.
No.
Okay.
So that's the part
that's one con. That's a con.
Well, and that's what it's the biggest out there. But as an investor, that's where I think we're a little bit different, because what we're looking at is deals that will probably, the people that might invest might know of people that are doing it. So because we're in the part of the country we're doing it in. So I think that's where we'll be a little bit different than if you just went to one of the real estate sites and you invested 100,000 in somebody that was flipping a house in Boston, which you can do. You
Sure.
can go up and do that right now, and get a 6% return.
Okay.
But the difference is, well, I know the contractor that's doing it in Dodge City or Garden City,
Yeah. Okay.
and I know that guy, and I can go knock on his door.
All right. Well, that's a big con. You're going to have to be willing to take a bath if it doesn't work.
Yep.
And there's no guarantees that it's going to work, even though you do it on the internet, et cetera, et cetera. You've been vetted. Okay. Now, what's one of the biggest pros of this whole deal? Because, we're getting down to about a minute and a half left here.
The money. I mean, making money is the biggest pro. But then I think we have a secondary pro for our area, because a lot of people that I think will be investing in these deals will be doing it because it'll bring something to their community that maybe they don't have, or they'll improve it. It might be somebody that already has one restaurant in Garden City and wants to open the second one in Dodge City. This could be something they put their deal up there to raise the capital to do that.
It opens you up to a whole another world of investment capital, doesn't it?
Yeah. And our company is based, our Rockingham Media is a business development company. So even though we own radio stations, and out here people know us, we're owning the Marshall and the Buzzard and K95, they know us that way, but we're so much more than that when it comes to doing this crowdfunding, and we're just helping entrepreneurs just keep growing.
That was your shameless plug for the radio stations right there, wasn't it? Shameless plug. Okay, but just like anything else, though, don't you have to do your homework on all this?
You do.
Just like any other investment?
Yes. Yeah, and it's so important to take the time to do that. It really, really is. If I could say that to any investor that goes to the site, is take the time, use the email, to ask the questions, and there's no dumb questions.
Because you can do all that before you invest also, right?
You really should do it before you invest.
Okay, important safety tip from Christopher right there. Do that before you invest. This is a cool deal.
It's pretty exciting stuff.
It is. I'm going to have to go look this up.
Please.
You have educated me today.
What I really like to do is send, I want to find the entrepreneurs. I need to find entrepreneurs that want to put deals up. That's where we're at now.
Okay, so you're looking for ruralgrowth.com. This man's looking for entrepreneurs. He wants to help fund you.
That's our job.
This is a cool deal. This is some interesting stuff. I suggest you go to ruralgrowth.com, get a feel for what's out there. All right. Thanks for coming by today, Christopher. This is good.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for joining us today on High Plains Today.
Keep up to date with the latest information from TV23 on our Facebook page, KDGL TV.